Haru, a detective haunted by a trail of fallen partners, faces termination unless his next rookie survives a grim ultimatum tied to his reckless solo style. But his new partner Shua is a tiny unassuming girl whose innocent facade hides a devastating world-shaking power, forcing Haru to confront his past and learn to trust as they battle monstrous limit breakers and internal betrayal. Another rookie lies broken on the ground, the cost of this dangerous work clear. Haru catches his breath while a colleague struggles, the alleyway littered with fresh carnage. Frustration boils over for the private detective as he surveys the grim scene. His partner groans in agony nearby, the weight of their failure pressing down hard. The culprit lies defeated, their desperate resistance having pushed everyone to the absolute limit. Haru delivers a swift punishing kick to the downed criminal, ending the immediate threat. Standing over the restrained captive, he vents his anger at the chaos they endured. His eyes narrow with intense focus, the adrenaline of the fight still coursing through. Blood stains the pavement where the fallen rookie lies, a stark reminder of mortality. Haru stares at the scene, dreading the inevitable reprimand waiting for him back home. Introducing himself as a private detective, he recalls the hunt for this dangerous target. Cornered in the alley, the criminal refuses to surrender, forcing a final desperate confrontation. A senior officer steps in, ordering the rookie to stand back and stay clear. The criminal screams in defiance, claiming his violent actions were never his own fault. Ignoring orders, the rookie charges forward, desperate to prove his worth in the field. He foolishly underestimates the target, believing them to be nothing more than a pushover. Suddenly, the criminal unleashes a hidden power, piercing the rookie with a flurry of thorns. The target reveals a terrifying ability, a limit break that transforms their very skin. Haru watches in horror as his warning is ignored, the true danger finally surfacing. The rookie is struck down, the lethal thorns tearing through him in a heartbeat. The criminal screams for distance, their body, now a weapon of pure jagged agony. They prepare to strike again, their arm transformed into a mass of deadly spikes. Haru leaps into the fray, his own hidden power ready to counter the assault. He slams his hand down, unleashing a surge of energy to suppress the threat. Flames erupt with blinding intensity, consuming the alley as the final battle truly begins. Haru unleashes a torrent of flames, suppressing the criminal with a display of raw power, his eyes burning with intensity as he declares the technique, a move known as eruption. He slams his fiery palm down, pinning the target to the ground with overwhelming force. The alleyway glows with blinding heat as Haru stands over the now defeated, smoldering criminal. He activates his limit break, his aura flaring as he prepares to finish the job. He dismisses the fallen criminal as a pathetic weakling, having surpassed all human limits himself. A bead of sweat rolls down Haru's face, his expression hardening as the adrenaline fades. He glances back at the lifeless rookie, the grim cost of their mission finally sinking in. Haru stares at the fallen partner, labeling the dead rookie an absolute idiot for his recklessness. Holding a funeral flower, he laments the endless cycle of incompetent partners dying under his watch. He offers a final cold farewell, noting that this marks the 13th death this year. Haru stands alone in the funeral home, his presence drawing the attention of a colleague. Bake, a fellow detective, approaches him, questioning his constant presence at these grim memorial services. Bake stares at him with tired eyes, demanding to know why he is here again. They sit outside the funeral home, the weight of the recent tragedy hanging between them. Haru scoffs, claiming the rookies are simply too weak and he prefers working entirely alone. Bake reminds him that the organization strictly mandates working in pairs, citing essential safety rules. Haru drinks his soda, mocking Bake for delivering yet another pointless lecture on standard procedure. Bake reveals that the higher-ups have held an urgent, serious discussion regarding Haru's future status. Haru continues drinking unfazed until Bake bluntly warns him that he is going to be fired. He chokes on his drink, shocked by the sudden news of his potential termination. He argues that his high arrest rate makes him indispensable to the organization's ongoing operations. Bake remains unmoved, pointing out that 13 rookie deaths in 1 year is an unacceptable, unprecedented record that has finally forced the leadership to consider taking severe disciplinary action. Haru screams in disbelief, but Bake coldly confirms that his time is running out fast. Bake informs Haru that the organization has granted him one final chance to remain employed. They stand at the headquarters, the weight of the decision hanging over the entire facility. Haru paces the grounds, his mind racing as he processes the ultimatum from his senior. The leadership debated his future extensively, ultimately deciding that his skills are still too valuable. Haru demands to know the terms of this last chance, his anxiety reaching a breaking point. Bake delivers the crushing news that any further partner deaths will result in immediate termination. Losing his job is not the real issue, but staying in the organization is mandatory. Haru must remain in the agency if he ever hopes to hunt down his target. He vows to catch the criminal with his own hands, no matter the personal cost. Haru prays that his new partner will be a tough, capable individual for once. A tiny girl named Shua introduces herself, saluting as his newly assigned partner. Haru stares in disbelief at the young girl, his hopes for a rugged partner shattered. He remains frozen in shock, unable to process the absurdity of this new pairing. Realizing she is just a small child, Haru feels his career is effectively over. Desperate to find a hidden strength, he tests her by asking for help with boxes. Shua attempts to carry the heavy load, her small frame struggling under the sudden weight. She immediately trips and falls, the box crashing down as she completely fails the test. Haru watches her struggle on the ground, his worst fears about her weakness confirmed. He begs Bake to switch partners, pleading for a way out of this disastrous assignment. Bake remains unmoved, coldly reminding Haru that he will be fired if she dies. There is no changing the assignment as Shua is already locked in as his partner. Haru screams in frustration knowing that his career is now tied to this fragile rookie. He curses his luck, realizing that his path to vengeance is slipping through his fingers. A sudden realization stops him in his tracks, his eyes widening with a new thought. Bake adjusts his glasses with a mysterious grin hinting that he has a new plan. Haru walks with the rookie Shua, keeping a cold distance as they start their patrol. Shua expresses her nervous excitement for the first mission, while Haru remains completely stone-faced and silent. Haru abruptly orders her to the bathroom, claiming he needs her out of his way. He insists that any delay during an emergency will jeopardize the entire operation, forcing her compliance. Shua runs off to follow his command, leaving Haru alone to handle the dangerous work. Haru takes a breath, reminding himself that keeping her away is the only way she survives. Shua calls out for him in the distance, unaware that he has already abandoned her position. Haru kicks down a door, his heavy boots signaling the start of his brutal solo assault. Shua's eyes widen in shock as she hears the sudden commotion erupting from the nearby building. Haru stands amidst the chaos, covered in blood and flames, having already decimated the criminal group. Shua rushes to his side, horrified by his severe injuries and the carnage he has caused. Haru dismisses his own pain, determined to finish the job while keeping the rookie safely away. He lies about the building layout, successfully tricking Shua into guarding a non-existent back entrance. Haru lunges forward with a powerful kick, crashing into the remaining enemies with lethal explosive speed. He unleashes a torrent of fire, catching the criminals off guard as he dominates the room. Haru screams in rage, his fiery aura flaring as he tears through the remaining opposition alone. He strikes down the last of the targets, desperate to wrap up before Shua can intervene. Shua runs back to find him, only to see the aftermath of his violent one-man war. Haru collapses, his body failing under the strain of his injuries and his reckless solo tactics. Shua screams in terror as Haru coughs up blood, his health rapidly deteriorating from the exertion. Haru points a shaky finger, trying to maintain his authority despite his critical fading condition. He gasps out that the mission is complete, his body glowing with dying embers of power. Haru loses his grip on consciousness, his face contorted in pain as he struggles to breathe. He tries to finish his report, but his voice fails as he collapses into total darkness. The headquarters stands silent, unaware that their most volatile detective has finally pushed himself too far. Shua approaches Haru on the steps, holding the details for their next high-stakes mission. Haru stares blankly, his body aching, as he struggles to process the criminal's dangerous ability. His heavily bandaged torso serves as a grim reminder of the toll his solo tactics take. Shua calls out to him, her voice cutting through his exhausted internal monologue of despair. Haru looks up, startled by her presence. As he tries to hide his physical agony, she questions why he is hesitating, pointing to the mission file she holds. Haru forces himself to stand, knowing he cannot afford the luxury of a single day's rest. He bows his head, acknowledging the gravity of the situation as they stand outside headquarters. Shua confronts him, demanding to know why he always sidelines her during every critical operation. Haru avoids her gaze, his expression unreadable, as he tries to deflect her pointed accusation. She refuses to be ignored, calling him out for his habit of finishing everything alone. Shua insists on being treated as a capable detective, rather than a burden to protect. She pleads for mutual trust, leaving Haru to question his own cold, distant behavior lately. Haru finally admits the truth, confessing that his distance was born from a deep fear. He reveals the harsh reality. If she dies, his career in the agency is officially over. 13 rookies have already perished under his watch, leaving him on his very last warning. He apologizes for his lack of trust, explaining that his choices were purely for survival. Haru looks at her with newfound resolve, deciding to change his approach to their partnership. He suddenly sweeps Shua off her feet, carrying her as they head toward the docks. She is left stunned by his abrupt action. As he moves with purpose toward the water, Haru warns her not to interfere, terrified that one mistake will cost him his livelihood. They arrive at a secluded pier where an elderly man sits quietly fishing in isolation. Haru remains vigilant, holding Shua close while scanning the area for any signs of trouble. The old man keeps his back turned, his weathered face hidden beneath a worn hat. He dismisses them immediately, claiming he is retired and has no interest in helping them. Haru confronts the fisherman, making it clear he has no interest in hiring a boatman. The man remains seated, calmly asking who exactly the detective is searching for today. Haru identifies the target as a dangerous criminal who preys on tall women in isolation. He ignites his hand with flames, ready to burn the truth out of the suspect. The fisherman simply observes him, unimpressed by the display, and noting his professional status, he sighs about his own frailty, claiming he lacks the strength to resist an arrest. The old man offers his wrists, seemingly ready to surrender. Without putting up a fight, Haru secures the man in heavy chains, believing the mission is finally coming to fruition. Exhaustion hits Haru hard, relieved that the suspect is complying so easily with his orders. He lets his guard down, desperate for a moment of rest to recover his strength. Shua calls out to him, her voice snapping Haru back to his immediate surroundings. Haru gives a thumbs up, declaring the mission a success while holding the chain man. Shua stares intensely, her eyes widening as she realizes something is terribly wrong here. She confronts Haru about his dirty tactics, revealing he knocked her out during the mission. Haru feigns ignorance, but Shua refuses to let him brush off his manipulative solo behavior. The fisherman suddenly looms over them, his massive shadow casting a dark, ominous presence. Haru turns around, his eyes widening in realization as the situation shifts in seconds. With a sudden violent motion, the fisherman launches Haru into the air with ease. The old man's eyes glow with power, his true strength finally revealed to the detectives. Haru is sent flying through the air, completely caught off guard by the sudden assault. He crashes into the deep water, sinking beneath the surface as the trap snaps shut. Shua screams for her partner, but the fisherman turns his cold gaze toward her. Instead, he reveals his true nature, stating that detectives are the only exception to his rule. The criminal activates his ability, a terrifying power known as the limit break of gigantification. Submerged and struggling, Haru curses his own exhaustion for falling for such a deadly trap. Haru gasps for air underwater, panicked that his rookie is now alone with the enemy. He desperately struggles to reach the surface, fearing the consequences of another failed mission. Breaking the water's surface, he gasps for air. While scanning the pier for any movement, Haru pulls himself onto the wooden planks, his eyes wide with terror at the scene. Shock paralyzes him as he stares at the impossible sight unfolding before his very eyes. The fisherman has transformed into a massive giant, looming over the pier like a mountain. Haru watches in disbelief, his mind racing as he processes the true scale of power. The villain reveals his terrifying ability. A limit break known as super gigantification. Memories flash back to 1 year ago during a formal ceremony at the police agency. Haru stands as a young celebrated detective, receiving his star for an outstanding arrest record. Peers whisper in the crowd, questioning how such a young rookie could earn such honors. A colleague salutes him, acknowledging that Haru is nothing short of a tactical monster. Haru recalls his early days, finally reaching a rank where he could mentor his own. He remembers the initial excitement of being assigned a rookie, eager to guide a partner, but reality hit hard when he faced criminals who viewed his rookies as mere prey. Haru forced his rookies to handle threats alone, terrified of the danger they faced together. The trauma of those early days haunts him, his expression darkening with deep hidden regret. He remembers the burning bodies of his fallen partners, blaming his own perceived bad luck. He recalls the polite greetings of his first rookie, unaware of the tragedy to come. The weight of his past failures presses down on him, clouding his current tactical judgment. He remembers finding a rookie dead in an alley, the victim of a brutal encounter. One by one, his partners fell in the line of duty, leaving him utterly devastated. The cycle of death continued, each loss carving a deeper scar into his hardened soul. After the fifth rookie perished, Haru finally began to understand the truth of his situation. He realizes his failures were not just bad luck, but a systemic flaw in his approach. Haru kneels in the dirt, lamenting the perceived weakness of his past rookie partners. His eyes burn with frustration as he questions how such incompetent people were hired. He struggles with the second realization: the sheer impossibility of cooperating with such fragile humans. Clutching his head in agony, Haru admits he never understood how to work together. He recalls demanding to work alone, only to be blocked by rigid agency regulations. The higher-ups refused to budge, leaving him trapped in a system he despised. Haru was forced to rely on pure luck, hoping for a competent partner. He prayed for a decent ally, yet his past was littered with tragic failures. Sweat drips down his face as the weight of those memories finally settles in. Suddenly, Shua unleashes a massive boulder, crushing the ground beneath the unsuspecting fisherman. She screams with intense focus, her small frame channeling an overwhelming amount of raw power. The impact is devastating, pinning the fisherman deep into the earth with crushing force. The old man's eyes bulge in shock, completely caught off guard by her sudden strength. Shua shouts again, preparing to unleash another devastating technique upon their powerful enemy. She leaps into the air, spinning with precision to deliver a crushing blow. A massive tornado erupts, leaving Haru stunned by the sheer scale of her ability. Water sprays everywhere as the pier trembles under the force of her unleashed power. Haru stares in disbelief, his mind reeling as he witnesses her true combat potential. He curses his own stupidity for failing to ask about her abilities until now. They walk toward a dark cave, though Haru remains guarded and deeply skeptical. He knows that if his rookie dies, his own career is effectively over. He challenges her, desperate to see exactly how far her hidden power truly goes. He points toward the cave, informing her that 3 dangerous convicts are hiding inside. Shua sighs, clearly annoyed that Haru is trying to push her aside once again. He coldly orders her to enter the cave, ignoring her frustration as tension rises. He tests her, demanding to know if she can truly handle the upcoming mission. She beams with confidence, eager to prove her worth despite her lack of experience. He hands her a whistle, instructing her to signal immediately if things turn dangerous. With a cheerful wave, she heads toward the cave while he watches with lingering doubt. She stands before the dark entrance, the silence of the cave looming over her path. He paces outside haunted by the memory of 13 rookies who failed him before. He calculates the odds hoping her power is enough to suppress the 3 targets inside. His mind races as he recalls the aftermath of the previous brutal high-stakes battle. He stands amidst the wreckage, his uniform tattered and his body pushed to the limit. Blood drips down his face as he struggles to maintain his composure and focus. His eyes glow with a fierce red intensity reflecting the trauma of his past. Blue flames erupt around him, signaling the activation of his own latent hidden power. This energy surges, wrapping him in a shroud of mystical burning azure light. His eyes shift, revealing a star-shaped mark that pulses with immense ancient authority. A massive golden crest manifests in the air, illuminating the darkness of the battlefield. He stares ahead, his expression hardened by the weight of his grim survivalist reality. He knows the world is filled with monsters, and he must prepare for anything. He reflects on Shua's potential, realizing she has the raw strength to win fights, but his heart sinks as he spots a hidden room filled with many convicts. She realizes the mission is far more dangerous than she was originally led to believe. Panic surges through him as he senses the sudden violent shift in the air. He crouches, bracing for the worst as the sounds of battle erupt within the cave. The stakes are absolute. If she falls, his career and his future are completely destroyed. He stares at the cave, praying that his rookie can survive the overwhelming odds. Inside the darkness, she blows the whistle with everything she has to call for help. He erupts in a sudden frantic outburst, his eyes wide with pure unfiltered shock. He ignites his flame, cursing the situation while questioning if 3 targets were too much. He rushes forward, desperately calling out to ensure his rookie is still alive and breathing. She looks up, her face tear-streaked and trembling, as she softly whispers to her senior. Yet the scene reveals she has effortlessly neutralized the entire group of dangerous armed convicts. She whimpers in frustration, struggling with the simple task of tying knots around her captives. He stands frozen, his expression shifting from panic to a hollow, disbelieving and manic laugh. He realizes his mistake, acknowledging that this powerhouse never required any of his tests. He stares at her, wondering if his own seniors felt the same overwhelming, crushing awe. He gently pats her head, finally accepting her as a partner he can truly trust. Relief washes over him, knowing he is no longer responsible for a weak, failing rookie. She beams, eager to continue their mission as he orders her to finish the job. They walk toward the station with him, still struggling to process her immense hidden combat skill. A colleague questions him, wondering if he is finally secure from the threat of termination. He smiles, but the colleague remains deeply suspicious, probing into the nature of his partner. The colleague asks if he could actually suppress her if she ever lost all control. He presses him, demanding to know if he could physically overpower her by sheer force. He is forced to confront the reality, questioning if he could win in a fight. He hesitates, then confidently claims he could, though his eyes betray a deep, lingering doubt. The colleague stares him down, sensing the lie behind his forced, bravado-filled and shaky response. He shouts that he is not bluffing, but the tension between them only grows thicker. The colleague narrows his eyes, silently challenging him to prove his bold, desperate, and loud claim. She stands before him, her presence looming large as she awaits his next command. She looks up, innocently asking if they are truly about to engage in a battle. He screams for her to attack without holding back, his nerves completely frayed and shattered. He stands dwarfed by her, his internal monologue betraying his growing, genuine fear. The colleague arranges a formal match, forcing him to defend his pride against her. He reacts with pure shock, unable to believe he is being pushed into this. The colleague mocks his hesitation, questioning if he is truly afraid of his own rookie. She looms above while he prepares to fight, desperate to maintain his senior dignity. He convinces himself that size equals slowness, planning to dodge and secure an easy win. He reflects on the absolute laws of nature, where water always flows downward. And just as the moon follows the sun, he believes combat has its own logic. He recalls how strength in numbers usually dictates the outcome of a brutal wild hunt, yet he knows that a single well-placed strike to a vital point ends everything. She moves with impossible speed, instantly closing the distance to deliver a crushing blow. He is sent flying, blood spraying as he struggles to comprehend the sudden impact. She towers over him, her overwhelming presence casting a shadow over his broken form. His face is a mask of trauma, his eyes wide as reality begins to shatter. She unleashes a devastating surge of energy, tearing through the very ground beneath them. He is caught in the wake of her power, his defenses crumbling into nothingness. The force of her strike obliterates the terrain, leaving him reeling in the dust. She stands panting, having defied every common-sense rule he once held as absolute. He lies defeated in a crater, his body broken by the sheer raw intensity. He stares up in disbelief, his face bloodied and his mind struggling to process. He realizes her speed and power are truly beyond anything he ever imagined possible. Clutching his wounds, he refuses to accept defeat, clinging to his fading consciousness. He screams for her to continue, desperate to prove he has not fallen just yet. He roars about his history as a monster, refusing to lose to a greenhorn. He tries to stand, but his body fails him as he finally succumbs to darkness. She watches over the unconscious Haru, debating if she should use force to wake him. The colleague observes the scene, stunned that he was defeated so easily by his own rookie. He recognizes the terrifying asymmetric power she possesses despite her innocent and unassuming outward appearance. The record reveals the criminal Lymph, a serial killer who targeted married women with cruelty. He used his restraint ability to bind families, mocking them before committing his heinous acts. After satisfying his twisted desires, he would brutally murder his victims without a second thought. She effortlessly crushed him, leaving the criminal broken in a massive crater from her impact. He now faces a death sentence, his reign of terror finally ended by her overwhelming strength. The investigation continues, focusing on the fate of the remaining families left in his wake. A survivor sits in the dark, mourning the loss of everything they once held dear. The files shift to Yuchial and his gang, who kidnapped children to demand massive ransoms. They targeted families who hired private detectives, showing no mercy to those who resisted them. He used his fusion ability to merge kidnapped children into one body for his revenge. Shua arrived to stop them, leaving the entire gang incapacitated in a massive deep crater. The gang leader now faces a death sentence for his monstrous crimes against the innocent, yet the children left behind remain in a state of trauma, their lives forever changed. The next file details Zamenhof, a criminal who used phasing to commit 12 violent robberies. He would kill any witnesses he encountered during his crimes before phasing through the walls. The only survivor of his final brutal rampage was a single mother's helpless newborn baby. Shua tracked him down, ending his spree by leaving him broken beneath her heavy boot. Zamenhof now faces a death sentence, his phasing ability useless against her raw, crushing power. The newborn baby was left abandoned in the slums, a tragic victim of his greed. Garbage bags sit in a dark alley, a grim reminder of the lives discarded daily. Haru and Shua finally return to the station, both exhausted from the day's heavy events. She calls out to her senior, leaving a battered Haru completely startled and confused again. Shua questions why those with immense power do not use it to save the world. Haru, still bandaged from his recent defeat, is caught off guard by her sudden heavy inquiry. They stand together at a funeral, watching as colleagues carry a casket toward its final resting place. He scoffs at the grim reality, his frustration simmering as he watches the somber procession move forward. Haru explains that while hundreds of rookies join the agency, only a fraction survive the first year. The rest are either killed in the line of duty or left permanently disabled by their missions. He tells her that survival is a constant struggle, yet he assures her she will make it. Shua laments the loss of life, but Haru insists that the world is simply full of criminals. She counters that if the number of detectives drops, the number of innocent victims will only rise. Haru stares at her in disbelief, stunned by the cold logic behind her seemingly innocent words. Shua claims that if her fallen peers had been stronger, they would have survived to catch criminals. She suggests that if everyone just tried harder, the tragic cycle of death might finally end. Haru asks if she joined the force with a specific purpose, intrigued by her intense, unwavering conviction. She calls him out for his lack of empathy, noting his focus remains only on the numbers. He admits that others with a special purpose shared her reaction, then asks for her own goal. Blushing, Shua confesses that she wants to achieve world peace using her own overwhelming raw power. Later, Haru meets with his superior, relaying her bizarre and ambitious dream over a cup of tea. His superior is shocked, noting that her eyes reveal she is completely serious about her mission. He remarks that her ideology mirrors the exact same rhetoric used by the criminal they are hunting. Haru winces, feeling the weight of painful buried memories resurfacing from his own dark, troubled past. 3 years ago, he walked in a similar funeral procession, mourning the loss of his own peers. He recalls standing outside the station, feeling the crushing weight of the agency's brutal, unforgiving nature. A scarred colleague once told him that half their team was already gone, lost to the job. He remembers being told that the weak dying is simply the natural order for private detectives. Now hearing Shua echo those same sentiments about strength, Haru is left reeling in total confusion. He recalls the haunting final words of a colleague urging him to keep fighting. A man once obsessed with peace shed tears before his ultimate tragic betrayal. He abandoned the detectives, joining the Eye of Stars and slaughtering his former allies. Haru stares at his bloodied hand, remembering the precious items stolen during that massacre. He reaches out into the void, haunted by the ghosts of those he failed. Haru vents his frustration, calling headquarters incompetent for failing to track the criminal organization. His superior remains calm, insisting that the group vanished without a trace after that. He urges patience, claiming that even the most elusive organizations eventually reveal their location. Haru scoffs at the 2-year stalemate, clearly losing his grip on his own composure. He vows to hunt down the thief Eska with his own 2 hands regardless. 2 months have passed since Shua became his partner, changing the agency's daily atmosphere. She walks through the station, instantly drawing the attention of every detective nearby. Colleagues whisper about the legendary rookie, wondering where she is currently hiding in plain sight. Shua strolls through the courtyard, her small frame contrasting with her massive, violent reputation. Other detectives plot to recruit her, ignoring the fact that Haru is her senior. A pair of detectives approach, attempting to scout the rookie for their own team. Haru steps in, his eyes burning with intensity as he demands they get lost. The detectives recoil in genuine terror, clearly intimidated by his sudden, aggressive outburst. He repeats his demand, his face twisted in a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. The 2 men scramble away, terrified of being beaten to death by the senior. Haru watches them flee, his expression hardening as he processes the recent constant attention. Shua has become a local celebrity, her rapid success making her a target for recruiters. She remains oblivious to the stares, listening to the murmurs of her growing fame. Shua beams with pride, clearly enjoying the spotlight and the attention she now receives. Haru watches her, deeply concerned that his rookie is picking up some very bad habits. Detectives gossip about the rookie partner who has recently become Haru's constant shadow. Shua overhears the chatter and dismisses the surrounding noise as nothing but annoying. Dike fumes with jealousy, unable to stand the attention Haru and his partner receive. He complains to his companion about the sudden spotlight on the pair of rookies. Private Detective Dike seethes with resentment, deciding that this moment marks a turning point. Rumors spread through the agency about the team completing 2 missions in 3 days. Onlookers express jealousy over Haru's rapid success and his inevitable path toward a promotion. Dike grows increasingly agitated, unable to escape the constant praise directed at his rival. Mickey wonders if the new rookie Shua is truly as talented as everyone claims. Dike dismisses the rumors, convinced Haru is bluffing to avoid getting fired from duty. Mickey questions if Haru is handling all the difficult missions entirely on his own. Dike admits Haru is skilled, but that only fuels his intense, burning sense of frustration. He boasts about his own elite status, claiming he deserves the attention Haru steals. The memory of his own promotion ceremony being overshadowed by Haru still haunts him. He recalls the miserable day his spotlight was stolen by his hated, successful rival. Clutching his shoulder, Dike vows to finally bring the arrogant Haru down for good. Mickey watches as his senior partner prepares to execute a calculated, malicious plan. Dike confirms his intent to get Haru fired by orchestrating a dangerous trap-filled scenario. Mickey asks if he plans to endanger the rookie as Dike reveals a document. He presents a double-level mission, a task far too difficult for a single team. This mission represents the 3rd highest difficulty tier within the agency's complex ranking system. Regulations prohibit 1-star detectives from handling these high-stakes tasks without proper authorized support. However, 2 teams can combine their efforts to qualify for the dangerous double-level assignment. Dike plans to corner Haru by proposing a forced collaboration on this deadly mission. He believes the formidable targets will overwhelm Haru, creating the perfect opening for sabotage. Dike reveals his sinister plot to use Shua as bait for a deadly target. He hopes that her death will trigger the agency's strict disciplinary firing policy for Haru. He craves the spotlight and believes Haru's removal will finally make him the agency's favorite. Mickey hesitates, clearly feeling uneasy about the morality of targeting the rookie for sabotage. Dike remains cold and focused, ignoring his partner's visible discomfort with the cruel plan. He snaps at Mickey, demanding to know why his partner is suddenly questioning his orders. Mickey voices his concern that they are going too far, but Dike shuts him down. Dike screams that weakness is a death sentence in their line of work, justifying everything. Mickey relents, accepting the harsh reality that survival is the only thing that matters here. But Mickey still feels the method is excessive as they approach Haru and his partner. Haru and Shua walk by exhausted after successfully subduing a culprit during their latest mission. They notice the 2 detectives blocking their path, sensing something is definitely off today. Dike greets Haru with a fake smile, asking if he has time for a chat. Haru stares back with a cold, unreadable expression, waiting for the inevitable trap to spring. He turns to walk away, completely ignoring the detectives and their desperate forced social interaction. Dike loses his temper, shouting at Haru for being rude and refusing to stop. Shua looks on, confused as to why these strangers are suddenly causing such a scene. Mickey steps forward, trying to smooth things over by introducing himself to the rookie partner. Shua remains guarded, wondering who these aggressive men are and what they actually want. Dike demands a joint mission, claiming he wants to work with the agency's best team. Haru scoffs at the request, refusing to take responsibility for their obvious lack of skill. Dike explodes in rage at Haru's informal tone, while Mickey tries to hold him back. Mickey apologizes for his senior's outburst, trying to maintain a facade of professional, calm cooperation. He holds up the mission document, explaining that they need Haru's help for this task. Mickey smiles, insisting there is a very specific reason they must work together on this. Haru confronts the detectives, demanding they explain their presence or face a swift, painful beating. Dike and Mickey exchange a knowing look, pulling out a document to bait their target. Dike seethes internally, vowing that this will be the final day Haru acts so arrogant. Mickey worries about whether Haru will actually accept their forced, suspicious request for a joint mission. Dike remains confident, that Haru will be desperate enough to take the bait. He dangles the mysterious Eye of Stars organization as the ultimate lure for the mission. Haru's eyes widen, clearly intrigued by the possibility of finding information on the elusive group. He pauses, his skepticism momentarily replaced by a flicker of genuine interest in the lead. Mickey confirms the details, watching Haru closely to see if he will fall for the trap. Internally, Dike mocks his own lie, knowing the mission is just a setup for sabotage. He plans to eliminate the target himself, ensuring Shua dies and Haru takes the fall. Dike presses Haru for an answer, waiting to see if his rival will finally commit. Haru's expression darkens, his patience wearing thin as he senses the dishonesty behind their words. He suddenly snaps, grabbing the detective and accusing him of peddling dangerous illegal drugs. Haru scoffs at the idea that they possess intel which even the agency's superiors cannot find. Tension explodes as Haru lunges, seizing the detective by the collar in a sudden outburst. He slams the man down with brutal force, demanding the truth behind their pathetic scheme. The ground shakes as Haru pins the detective, his dominance absolute and his anger boiling. Haru tightens his grip, choking the truth out of his cornered and terrified rival. The detective gasps for air, desperately pleading his innocence, while Haru demands to know his purpose. Haru ignites a flame in his hand, threatening to roast the man if he keeps lying. Shua watches in horror, confused by the sudden violence and the mention of the mysterious organization. Mickey intervenes, grabbing Haru's arm to stop the assault before things escalate even further. Their eyes lock in a silent, intense standoff, the air thick with unspoken threats and hostility. Haru finally relents, releasing his grip as the confrontation reaches a tense, uneasy stalemate. Haru agrees to the mission, warning he will uncover the truth behind their suspicious claims. He threatens that if they are lying, they will regret ever crossing his path. Dike bristles at the defiance, while Haru promises they will tremble at his name soon. Mickey scoffs at the rookie's arrogance, dismissing Haru as nothing more than a naive, foolish kid. He watches Haru and Shua, convinced the rookie lacks the skill to survive this dangerous assignment. Shua looks on with growing concern, sensing the dark intentions hidden behind the detective's forced smiles. Dike coldly declares that Haru will be fired after this, ordering them to depart immediately. The group arrives at the desolate abandoned castle, the site of their supposed double-level mission. Dike curses in frustration, demanding to know if this eerie, empty location is truly correct. Mickey insists the documents point here despite the complete absence of any signs of life. Shua questions why a high-level criminal would hide in such a deserted, forgotten island location. Haru remains silent and watchful, his instincts telling him that something is deeply, horribly wrong. Shua recalls the target's description, asking if they have managed to locate the blonde individual. Mickey hesitates, his facade cracking, as he struggles to explain the grim discovery he made. They find the target lying in the grass, their body cold and already long dead. This shocking discovery leaves them stunned, realizing the mission was a trap from the start. Back at the agency, Bake sits alone in his office, reviewing the suspicious mission files. He realizes that Dike had manipulated the situation to steal the assignment for himself. Reading the note left by the traitor, Bake wonders what dark scheme is unfolding now. He hears a knock at the door, signaling an unexpected visitor during this tense moment. A subordinate enters, asking Bake about the status of the double-level mission documents from today. Bake reveals that his junior took the files, his expression turning to one of alarm. At the castle, the group stands over the corpse, the weight of the deception sinking in. Haru realizes the entire setup was a calculated move to frame them for this murder. Suddenly, a mysterious presence emerges from the shadows, catching the group completely off guard. Haru confronts the mysterious pair, demanding to know if they are truly private detectives. The red-haired man stares back, his expression unreadable as he considers the direct question. He grins, boasting that his power has been upgraded to a dangerous triple level. A chilling wind sweeps across the field as the tension between the groups escalates. Haru demands to know their true identities, while the rivals stand their ground firmly. The red-haired man mocks them, pointing to his blood-stained uniform as supposed proof. Haru remains skeptical, his sharp gaze locked onto the strange inconsistencies in their appearance. He notes that while their clothes are ruined, their faces remain suspiciously clean and untouched. The red-haired man laughs, offering a twisted compliment to Haru for his keen observation. Haru points to the fallen blonde, asking if they were responsible for the lethal outcome. He presses for the truth behind their impersonation of detectives, refusing to be deceived. The red-haired man ignores the accusation, asking if Haru knows a detective named Gunchung. Haru denies any knowledge of the name, while the atmosphere turns increasingly hostile. The red-haired man sneers, implying that Haru and his allies are now beyond any help. Back at the agency, news arrives that triple-level threats have emerged, requiring immediate support. A file is produced identifying the dangerous duo as Rice and Navy known killers. A senior detective expresses his deep hatred for those who kill for mere thrills. Bark, a three-star detective, sits in his office, seemingly indifferent to the growing crisis. He dismisses the concerns about his unconventional attire, focusing instead on the mission ahead. Bark curses the headquarters for failing to predict this dangerous variable in the field. He reviews the files on Haru and Dike, noting their rapid rise through the ranks. Realizing he is the only one available, Bark prepares to intervene in the conflict. He complains about the trouble, urging his team to depart before the situation worsens. The pair argues over the pace of their mission, aware of the looming disaster. Meanwhile, Haru's instincts scream that they are walking into a trap of immense danger. Shadows loom large as the team realizes they are facing a deadly hidden threat. Dike coldly reminds Haru of the strict regulations, demanding an immediate retreat from the site. Haru scoffs at the cowardice, refusing to abandon the mission despite the clear mounting danger. A sudden realization strikes Haru, causing him to pause and reassess the entire grim situation. He observes the eerie abandoned castle, questioning if the trap is truly as bad as feared. Dike watches Haru closely, noting the rookie's stubborn refusal to follow the standard withdrawal protocols. Internally, he schemes to use the enemy to eliminate Haru, viewing this as a perfect opportunity. He believes that even if Haru survives the fight, he will be finished for breaking orders. He abruptly orders the team to return to headquarters, leaving Haru to face the danger alone. The young detective is left in shock, unable to believe they would abandon a colleague. He remains unmoved, insisting that following the organization's rigid regulations is the only path forward. His team questions why they would retreat instead of arresting the suspicious individuals they encountered. She pleads with him, horrified by the prospect of leaving Haru to die in the field. He mocks her defiance, labeling her a rookie who clearly lacks respect for the established rules. He coldly tells her that if she cares so much she can stay and fight instead. His dark plan is clear. Let the enemies break Haru, ensuring the rookie's permanent removal from service. He smirks, convinced that everything is unfolding exactly according to his twisted, calculated design. Haru stands his ground, his eyes fixed on the unfolding betrayal with cold, sharp intensity. The young woman lashes out, declaring that she hates cowards who hide behind a tough facade. She calls him out for his spineless behavior, making it clear she despises his weak character. His expression darkens, his patience wearing thin as he contemplates silencing her. For her insolence, sparks of power crackle in his fist, his anger boiling over at the young detective's insults. He forces himself to stay calm, dismissing her as a nuisance who will soon be dead. He arrogantly claims that he will be the final victor regardless of the coming chaos. The detective stands firm, declaring her intention to stay and support Haru against the odds. Haru declares his firm resolve to live as an upright person despite the surrounding chaos. This red-haired man sneers at their defiance, clearly losing his patience with their moral stance. He lashes out in a fit of rage, ordering his enemies to just die already. The young woman checks on Haru, worried about his mental state during this confrontation. Haru reassures her that his choices are his own, standing firm in his difficult path. He suddenly channels his power, creating a massive surge of energy that ripples outward violently. A towering stone wall erupts from the ground, instantly isolating them from the outside world. She screams in shock as the walls trap them in a narrow space. Haru explains that his ability creates a sanctuary, a place of peace amidst the war. He apologizes for the confinement, admitting he cannot bear to watch anyone die before him. Trapped within the stone, she wonders what Haru is planning to do. Suddenly, a familiar ally arrives to help, having ignored the orders to retreat as well. Haru greets the newcomer, but immediately notices that his partner is nowhere to be found. A lethal strike comes out of nowhere, forcing the ally to narrowly dodge the attack. Haru rushes forward to check on his ally, who remains standing after the sudden assault. The ally glares at the enemy, his expression hardening with intense, focused rage and hatred. The red-haired man mocks their survival, disappointed that his killing blow failed to land true. He grins maniacally, revealing he has one more twisted question for the group to answer. Flames erupt as he launches a brutal, fiery assault against the defensive ally. This impact sends shockwaves through the field, testing the limits of the ally's endurance. The ally survives the onslaught, stunning his attacker, who expected a swift, lethal victory. This battle intensifies as the ally engages in a high-speed exchange with the deadly duo. Haru watches with sharp, focused eyes, ready to intervene. As the situation reaches a breaking point, he draws his blade, parrying a heavy strike to protect his ally from further harm. Haru calls out the pair for their cowardice, challenging them as they prepare to strike. Haru prepares to engage the female opponent, while his ally steps up to face the threat. The red-haired man taunts Haru, mocking him for looking away during the heat of battle. Suddenly, a massive wave of jagged ice erupts from the ground, forcing Haru to dodge. Haru stumbles back, stunned by the sudden appearance of such a powerful and lethal ice ability. The villain revels in the chaos, inviting his opponents to play a deadly new game. He activates his ultimate technique, Glacier, pushing his freezing power to a terrifying new level. Back at headquarters, the senior officer questions if the rookies can handle such high-level targets. He expresses doubt, noting that despite their reputation, they are still inexperienced and lack coordination. The officer probes for weakness, asking if his colleague is actually worried about them. He dismisses the concern, claiming the rookies should survive until he arrives to take over. He notes that their survival depends entirely on their ability to cooperate under extreme pressure on the battlefield. The villain unleashes his power as Haru prepares a fiery counter. Haru realizes the elemental disadvantage, grimly acknowledging that this is a terrible matchup for him. The villain launches a barrage of ice shards, forcing Haru to stay on defense. Haru narrowly avoids the crushing impact, his movement strained. As he struggles to maintain ground, he dashes across the grass, desperately trying to find an opening in the freezing onslaught. Channeling his inner heat, Haru ignites his hands, preparing to strike back with burning intensity. He shouts in frustration, realizing his current output is far too weak to break through. Haru fires a blast of flames, but his opponent remains completely unfazed by it. The villain grins maniacally, clearly enjoying the sight of Haru's desperate and failing attempts. Steam hisses as the ice easily extinguishes Haru's fire, proving the massive gap in power. The villain mocks the lack of heat, declaring that Haru cannot even reach him. Haru curses his luck, wishing his ally Shua were there to shatter the ice defenses. He scans the area for his missing partner, then refocuses on the immediate deadly threat. Haru lunges forward with renewed resolve, determined to close the distance and end the fight. The villain mocks Haru for choosing close quarters combat, clearly confident in his own superiority. He launches a flurry of jagged ice shards, forcing Haru to scramble and dodge away. Haru grunts in frustration as the ice projectiles shatter against the ground with immense crushing force. The villain sneers, calling Haru foolish for charging in with nothing but spirit and blind courage. He muses to himself, wondering if he should have toyed with his opponent a bit longer. This battlefield is littered with ice, as the villain dismisses Haru as just another weakling. Suddenly, Haru ignites his hands with intense flames, refusing to back down from the overwhelming threat. He unleashes a massive torrent of fire, engulfing the area in a blinding, golden-hot inferno. Haru screams, pouring every ounce of his energy into a desperate, high-powered flame finger blast. The villain's eyes widen in genuine shock, his composure momentarily shattered by the unexpected fierce counterattack. Flames collide with the ice defenses, creating a chaotic storm of steam and debris across the field. This impact is deafening, forcing the villain to grunt as he takes the full force of the blast. Blinding light fills the screen, marking the sheer intensity of the clash between fire and ice. As the smoke clears, the villain chuckles, impressed that Haru managed to land such a solid hit. He stands amidst the wreckage looking battered, but clearly amused by the unexpected display of power. Haru pants, heavily stunned that his strongest attack barely left a scratch on his monstrous opponent. The villain introduces himself as Rice, a former executive of the dangerous Eye of Stars organization. Rice taunts Haru, demanding he use every ounce of his remaining strength to try and finish him. Haru stands alone in the field, reeling from the revelation of his opponent's terrifying elite background. He struggles to catch his breath, his mind racing. As he processes the gravity of the situation, without warning, a shadowy figure blurs past him, moving with impossible speed and lethal intent. Haru barely manages to raise his sword, blocking a devastating strike from the mysterious female opponent. She swings her massive scythe with fluid grace, forcing Haru to retreat and regroup his defenses. Haru stares in disbelief, realizing her speed is far beyond what any normal person could achieve. He identifies her ability as a limit break, confirming her power is known as acceleration. The scythe wielder questions Haru, confirming his identity as a private detective. She notes his failure to use his limit break, despite all detectives possessing one. Haru admits his specific ability is not designed for combat or harming other people. His opponent finds his lack of offensive power unfortunate, her gaze turning cold and sharp. She suddenly blurs into motion, her speed becoming a terrifying, distorted streak of movement. Haru's eyes widen in shock as he realizes the sheer intensity of her incoming assault. A flurry of rapid strikes rains down, forcing him to desperately parry every blow. He grunts in pain, realizing her attacks are not just fast but incredibly lethal. Haru acknowledges the grim reality that his opponent is far stronger than he is. He grips his sword tightly, knuckles white, refusing to let his resolve crumble away despite the overwhelming odds. Haru declares he will not give up on this fight. He channels his remaining energy, shouting the name of his technique, Rising Dragon Slash. She watches him with a piercing, focused gaze, unmoved by his desperate display. Haru lunges forward, his blade carving through the air in a final defiant attempt. She effortlessly sidesteps his strike, her scythe moving with lethal fluid grace. Once more, a bead of sweat rolls down Haru's face as he realizes his failure is absolute. She turns her back on him, her expression calm and completely devoid of mercy. Haru collapses as blood sprays from his wounds, his body failing after the clash. He lies broken on the grass while his opponent stands tall and entirely unharmed. She stares down at the fallen detective, her green eyes showing no lingering emotion. She begins to walk away, leaving Haru bleeding out on the cold ground. Haru struggles to stay conscious, admitting that he cannot win, but refusing to die, he forces himself up, clutching his sword and insisting he still has a role. She stops and looks back, coldly offering to grant his wish if he desires. Haru calls her Senior Dike, expressing his unwavering belief that she will return eventually. Haru, bloodied and battered, declares he will hold his ground until his senior returns. His opponent prepares a lethal strike, but Haru remains locked in his desperate stance. He reaffirms his duty, vowing to endure the onslaught, no matter the personal cost. While in the distance, a mysterious observer watches the scene unfold with cold detachment. He notes Haru's struggle, remarking that the battle has dragged on far too long. He turns away, deciding that abandoning the fight was the correct choice for himself. Revealing his one-star rank, he claims he is destined to become the best detective. He pauses to offer a final somber apology, choosing to live as an upright person. He curses Haru's stubbornness, calling him a fool for refusing to back down. He shouts about the importance of regulations, insisting his own choices were never wrong. Young girl interrupts, mocking the observer for acting tough. While hiding his cowardice, he bristles at the accusation, frantically defending his actions as mere adherence to protocol. He stands alone in the shadows, muttering about regulations to justify his own retreat. Back on the field, Haru ignites his flames, struggling to maintain his fading energy. The red-haired villain mocks him, noting that his fire has lost its previous intensity. Haru grunts, acknowledging that his opponent is truly one of the strongest he's faced. He senses the villain's power, realizing the threat of the Eye of Stars is real. Haru glances around, his focus shifting. As he notices something strange on the battlefield, he spots a mysterious wall appearing, wondering if it was there during the fight. The villain ignores the structure, focused entirely on finishing off the weakened private detective. Haru panics, realizing he must end this quickly before he faces a 2-on-1 assault. Suddenly, a young girl crashes onto the scene, landing hard on the cold ground. She desperately claws at the wall, trying to pull herself up from the impact. The massive wall looms over the area, casting a long shadow across the field. She groans in pain, nursing her injuries after the sudden and rough arrival. The young girl stares up at the towering, impenetrable wall, wondering if escape is possible. She considers using her limit break to shatter the barrier, but fears the lethal consequences. The risk of her own body bursting from the strain is simply too terrifying to contemplate. She presses her hand against the cold stone, searching for a way to scale the obstacle. Deciding to climb quietly, she begins her ascent, while Haru remains locked in his own battle. Haru observes that skilled fighters always rely on the most effective and efficient combat patterns. He notes that powerful limit breakers often fall into predictable, fixed rhythms during their fights. The red-haired villain is no exception, his movements following a clear and repetitive cycle. First he launches ice spheres, then he creates ice walls to escape. Whenever Haru approaches, Haru realizes he keeps getting hit by this simple routine, though he refuses to admit stupidity. He believes he can dodge the incoming attacks, focusing intently on the villain's next move, but the speed of the assault catches him off guard, forcing him into a defensive stance. Haru takes a direct hit, grunting in pain. As the icy projectiles slam into him, he grits his teeth, determined to endure the damage and find a way to retaliate. Igniting his flames, Haru charges at the ice wall. Looking for a weakness in the defense, he lunges forward, confident that his fire can eventually break through the villain's icy barrier. Haru pushes himself to the limit, his eyes locked on the villain behind the wall. The villain just grins, clearly unfazed by the detective's desperate and aggressive display of power. Haru knows that if he can just bypass this simple pattern, he will find an opening. He leaps through the air, his fiery fist ready to strike at the heart of the defense. Suddenly, the villain counters with blinding speed, leaving Haru shocked by the rapid change. A massive impact sends Haru flying backward, his body crashing hard against the ground. He coughs up blood, realizing the villain's attack speed is far beyond what he anticipated. The villain mocks Haru for his reckless charging, calling him an idiot for his persistence. Haru wipes his mouth, warning the villain that he is already deciphering his secret ability. Haru stares down his opponent, vowing to shatter his jaw within 5 more strikes. The red-haired villain just grins, clearly amused by the private detective's desperate, bold threat. Meanwhile, a massive stone structure looms over the battlefield, casting a long dark shadow. A sudden pain cry echoes from the top of the wall. As someone falls, the young girl hits the ground hard, groaning in pain as she lands again. She looks up at the towering obstacle, calculating that 5 more meters will suffice. Doubt clouds her eyes as she wonders if she can actually reach the top. Back in the fray, Haru launches himself forward, dodging through a field of ice. He winds up his burning fist, aiming to close the distance with raw power. The villain watches with a twisted smile, anticipating the next move in their dance. He unleashes an ice burst, forcing Haru to react to the sudden freezing wave. The villain taunts him, mocking the detective's promise to end this in 5 moves. Haru ignites his flames once more, closing in for the 3rd strike of battle. He roars, channeling his energy into a devastating flame impact fist aimed at victory. The air erupts in a blinding flash of fire, consuming the space between them. Golden sparks dance in the air as Haru's power clashes with the chilling defense. He kneels amidst the wreckage, frustrated that his latest attempt failed to break through. Haru analyzes the pattern, realizing his opponent is not creating ice, but moving existing chunks. He deduces that such a wide-range attack requires no preparation, confirming his tactical theory. The villain stands still, watching Haru with a look of intense, growing curiosity. He admits the detective is dangerous, having already adapted to his combat tempo. His heart begins to race, the thrill of the fight finally taking hold. Every nerve in his body stands on edge, electrified by the rush of adrenaline. He stares at Haru, impressed by the resolve of someone so clearly outmatched. The villain grips his own clothing, ready to push the fight to its limit. He goads Haru, demanding he push his desperation to the absolute limit. Haru stares back, his expression hardened as he calls the villain out for his impatience. He warns the villain not to get cocky, or he will end up beaten later. Meanwhile, a wounded ally lies on the ground, shivering from the intense biting cold. He reflects on how the woman with the scythe simply left him there to die. Accepting his fate, he finds a strange sense of pride in his own failed efforts. Suddenly, a senior arrives, looking down at the fallen youth with a stern, cold gaze. The youth gasps in surprise, recognizing his senior standing right before him. The senior immediately begins wrapping his wounds, scolding him for ignoring direct orders. As the senior tends to the injuries, the youth begs him to be more gentle. He asks if it was the woman with the scythe who caused this. The youth admits his own weakness, acknowledging he still has much to learn. The senior turns to leave, declaring his intent to take the woman down himself. He clarifies that this is not revenge, but simply cleaning up after his reckless junior. Haru's ally nods in understanding, accepting the senior's cold but necessary guidance. Back at the main fight, the red-haired villain grins with a twisted, manic intensity. Haru catches his breath, his eyes locked on the villain's next lethal move. The villain announces that the 5th strike is finally coming, inviting Haru to brace. He pauses to ask why Haru keeps fighting instead of choosing to run away. Haru admits he is not one to avoid a fight, but he has a specific motive. He reveals his deep interest in the mysterious Eye of Stars organization. The villain laughs, promising to spill all their secrets if Haru can actually win. He suddenly unleashes a massive blizzard storm, filling the air with jagged ice. Haru watches in horror as the ice embedded in the ground begins to shift. The entire battlefield erupts in a chaotic, freezing surge of power and destruction. Haru stands surrounded by jagged ice, his silhouette glowing with intense, focused energy. He channels his power into a concentrated flame finger blast, ready to strike. The red-haired villain mocks him, claiming that specific attack will never work again. A massive explosion of fire erupts, clashing violently against the villain's icy defenses. The villain expresses disappointment, unimpressed by the detective's latest attempt at a fifth strike. His eyes widen in sudden shock as he realizes Haru has completely vanished. He looks around in confusion, wondering how the detective escaped his line of sight. The battlefield remains silent and empty, leaving the villain searching for his missing opponent. Panic creeps into the villain's expression as he fails to track Haru's hidden presence. Haru's voice echoes from above, revealing he has finally decoded the villain's combat pattern. He explains that the villain can only summon ice from the ground or palms. Leaping from the air, Haru descends upon the villain with a burning, lethal fist. The villain stares up in terror as the flaming impact descends toward his face. Suddenly, a scythe-wielding woman intervenes, shielding the villain from Haru's devastating fiery blow. Haru realizes the woman is trapped in a vulnerable position, unable to dodge effectively. He watches in horror, fearing his strike will kill her instead of the target. A massive surge of power rips through the ground, forcing everyone to recoil instantly. Haru hits the ground hard, gasping for air as the shockwave rattles his bones. He is thrown back into the ice, struggling to recover from the intense impact. Haru kneels amidst the wreckage, his body trembling from the sheer force of the clash. A new arrival with crackling electricity appears, annoyed that he arrived just a second late. He stands tall, crackling with energy, lamenting that he missed the chance to decapitate someone. The newcomer dismisses his partner's confusion, coldly denying that he came to offer any help. He clarifies he is only here to clean up the mess left by his partner. The newcomer notes that the woman spared their ally, viewing it as a humiliating insult. The newcomer demands to take on the scythe wielder, while Haru asks about his missing partner. The newcomer is stunned to learn that his partner stayed behind to help the detective. Haru watches the tense exchange, confused by the sudden arrival of this mysterious, powerful ally. The red-haired villain chokes the scythe wielder, furious that his intense battle was so rudely interrupted. He screams at her to be quiet, claiming he was finally having a fun fight. The newcomer locks eyes with the villain, coldly ordering him to release his grip immediately. Standing his ground, the newcomer declares that the villain is now his personal chosen opponent. The villain sneers, dismissing the scythe wielder to focus entirely on hunting down Haru in the back. The newcomer agrees, eager to clear the path so he can eliminate the detective himself. With the others sidelined, the villain turns his full murderous attention back toward Haru. Haru realizes his ally is missing and wonders where he could have possibly gone. Scanning the area, Haru notices a strange, isolated wall standing in the middle of nowhere. He questions why such a structure exists, noting a complete lack of signs of combat. Suddenly, the scythe wielder launches a surprise attack, swinging her weapon with blinding, lethal speed. The newcomer barely reacts, his body crackling with raw electricity as he dodges the strike. He mocks her reliance on speed, his own energy surging as he prepares to retaliate. A massive discharge of electricity erupts, engulfing the area in a blinding, crackling blue light. The newcomer stares down his opponent, unimpressed by her lack of true, overwhelming power. He activates his limit break, his presence intensifying as he prepares to overwhelm her defenses. With a swift motion, he closes the distance, his speed far surpassing her own capabilities. He unleashes a devastating golden wing slash, tearing through the air with pure concentrated energy. The scythe wielder is caught in the blast, her body trembling under the immense, shocking pressure. She collapses to the ground, exhausted, while the newcomer stands over her, demanding an answer. She gasps for air, feeling the lingering, painful tingle of his electricity coursing through her. He taunts her, asking how it felt to fight someone who lacks his true power. The scythe wielder stares at the newcomer, coldly dismissing his display of power as boring. He crackles with intense electricity, vowing that she will never feel that way again. Charging his fingers with lethal energy, he prepares to unleash a devastating shock troop attack. A massive bolt of lightning erupts, engulfing the battlefield in a blinding, destructive blue light. The red-haired villain screams in rage, furious that his battle plan was completely ruined. He watches in disbelief as the scythe wielder lies defeated, questioning the newcomer's sudden aggressive arrival. Haru stands nearby, confused and pointing at the newcomer, wondering why he appeared here. The scythe wielder looks on in shock, her eyes wide as she questions his presence. Haru scans the area for his missing partner, fearing there is another hidden enemy. The red-haired villain mocks Haru for spacing out, taunting him about being exhausted. Internally, the villain realizes he is running out of strength while Haru remains fresh. Desperate, the villain accuses Haru of being a coward for relying on his allies. Haru retorts, calling out the villain for using a meddler the moment he faced defeat. The villain bristles at the insult, his pride wounded as he demands an explanation. Haru points out that the villain's own ally interfered, proving his hypocrisy in this fight. He notes the lightning strike location, mocking the villain for his smooth, cowardly talk. Both fighters scream at each other, the tension escalating as they prepare for impact. The villain goads Haru to strike him, promising he will not dodge the attack. Haru accepts the challenge, eager to exploit the villain's overconfidence. In this final exchange, flames ignite across his face, his eyes burning with a cold, calculated, lethal intensity. He stands ready, his entire body wreathed in roaring, uncontrollable, and destructive golden flames. The villain stares in confusion, realizing this is not the same technique as before. Haru explains the difference, noting that his previous move was just a simple impact. He unleashes the flame burst barrage, a massive wave of fire, consuming the space. He ignites explosive flames across his entire body, ready to end the battle permanently. He taunts the red-haired villain, reminding him of his promise not to dodge the attack. He lunges forward, his body erupting in a massive, overwhelming surge of golden destructive flames. The sheer intensity of the heat blinds the villain, leaving him completely exposed to the strike. A powerful impact sends the red-haired villain flying backward, crashing into the cold, frozen earth. He stands amidst the roaring inferno, his presence dominating the battlefield with absolute lethal force. The villain's eyes widen in terror, realizing the true scale of the power he now faces. Golden flames consume the entire area, turning the battlefield into a sea of burning, uncontrollable energy. Smoke rises from the scorched ground as the flames continue to rage with relentless, destructive intensity. The red-haired villain gasps for air, his face bloodied, and his spirit shattered by the assault. He watches him struggle, calling him an idiot for underestimating the stakes of their deadly fight. He demands to know what is so cowardly about fighting with everything on the line. The villain lies defeated in the dirt, surrounded by the remnants of Haru's blazing golden aura. He stares up in shock, realizing this technique is far more dangerous than the last one. Recalling the previous clash, he notes that Haru's flame impact was far less destructive before. He expresses his deep disappointment, having expected a fellow warrior who lived for the thrill. He declares that the crafty, manipulative types like the villain have finally met their end. The villain recalls a past rival, an ex-detective, who joined their organization and vows revenge elsewhere. A young girl crawls from the ground, explaining how she was trapped by a wall. Her ally is stunned to learn that Mickey was responsible for trapping her in that structure. He questions why Mickey would do such a thing, especially when he was already barely alive. The girl looks up, innocently asking if that woman was actually his preferred type of person. He explodes in shock, completely caught off guard by her sudden, bizarre, and unexpected question. His face contorts in confusion, demanding to know what exactly she is talking about right now. The girl finally reveals the truth, explaining that her unique ability is controlling summoned ice chunks. She stands before the frozen wall, ready to unleash her power and change the battlefield forever. Haru gasps in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how his opponent survived his powerful flame barrage. The red-haired villain reveals his source of power, claiming he draws ice from the North Pole. Massive spikes of ice erupt from the ground surrounding him and cutting off his escape route. Haru watches in confusion as the ice chunks begin to vanish, questioning the nature of the power. The villain explains that he usually holds back, preferring to prolong the thrill of a fight. He admits that getting serious ends battles too quickly, but now he is ready to finish it. Haru stares in absolute horror as a colossal structure of ice looms over the entire battlefield. The sheer scale of the frozen monolith dwarfs everything, casting a terrifying shadow over the combatants. The villain declares that he shows no mercy to those who engage in dirty, manipulative battles. Onlookers watch in terror, questioning how any human could possibly manifest such an insane, impossible ability. Haru desperately tries to evade the incoming threat, his movements frantic as the ice begins shifting. Senior detective realizes the massive ice structure is within range, urging everyone to flee immediately. The young girl points toward the chaos, desperately trying to get her senior's attention to help. She screams that Haru is in danger, but the senior dismisses her concern with cold indifference. The senior argues that they must prioritize their own survival over helping a reckless, dying rookie. The girl refuses to abandon her partner, sprinting toward the danger, while the senior watches coldly. The senior reflects on the rumors about Haru, convinced now that he is just another amateur. He scoffs at the high death rate of rookies, claiming they always overestimate their own strength. He cruelly mocks Haru, insisting that his arrogance will lead to his inevitable swift end. He lectures the girl on the necessity of experience. While Haru struggles to maintain his footing, he warns that Haru's arrogance is his death sentence just as the ground begins shaking. Haru's eyes widen in a moment of pure adrenaline, sensing the final crushing blow approaching him. The girl unleashes a massive titan impact, her fist colliding with the ice to protect Haru. Haru looks on, his face contorted in shock as the impact shatters the frozen, deadly barrier. The girl's eyes lock onto the destruction, her determination clear as the battlefield erupts in chaos. The massive ice structure shatters into countless fragments, signaling the end of the villain's barrier. The young girl descends from the air, her powerful strike having successfully dismantled the frozen wall. She lands gracefully, her expression one of innocent surprise. As she surveys the chaotic battlefield, Haru watches the scene unfold, his eyes locked on the girl who just intervened in time. The red-haired villain boasts about his ultimate weapon, still confident despite the sudden turn of events. He claims his ice technique is beyond imagination, having secured his rank as an elite executive. The villain mocks the idea of anyone surviving his attack, but the girl challenges his arrogance. He scoffs at the notion of a human enduring such power, refusing to believe it possible. The girl's impact echoes across the field, leaving the villain stunned by the display of strength. The red-haired villain stares in disbelief, his confidence wavering as he processes the unexpected resistance. Haru looks on with intense focus, his mind racing as he assesses the shifting power dynamic. He stands ready, carrying his ally while keeping his guard up against any further sudden attacks. The battlefield remains tense, with ice shards scattered everywhere. As the dust begins to settle down, Haru gasps for air, his body battered and exhausted from the relentless pressure of the fight. He collapses on the grass, finally finding a moment to breathe after the intense, brutal struggle. The young girl approaches, scolding Haru for his tardiness while checking on his physical condition. Haru demands that she hunt down the villain responsible for the ice attack. Ignoring his pain, she pouts, insisting she did not slack off, but complies with his orders without further complaint. The red-haired villain stands firm, watching the pair with a mixture of frustration and growing caution. The girl looms over the villain, questioning if he was the one who unleashed the ice. He looks up at her, trembling slightly, as he demands to know her true identity. She smiles innocently, introducing herself as a rookie private detective. While pointing to her chest, the tension peaks as the reality of their confrontation sets in, marking a new dangerous chapter. The villain Rice gathers his focus, determined to analyze the girl's capabilities. After his recent defeat, he convinces himself that she is beatable, though his internal fear suggests a much darker outcome. Rice analyzes the rookie, noting her lack of battle scars and seemingly fragile young appearance. He assumes her lack of combat experience makes her clumsy and easy to manipulate. Convinced of his superior speed, he plans to dodge her attacks and wear her down. Rice lunges forward with a sudden burst of movement, aiming to catch the girl off guard, but she reacts instantly, delivering a crushing strike that sends the villain spiraling into the air. Rice gasps in total shock as his confidence shatters under the weight of her sudden power. He is sent flying across the battlefield, barely able to process the overwhelming force of impact. Struggling to comprehend what just happened, he realizes he could not even track her movement. The girl leaps into the air, closing the distance between them with terrifying focused speed. She prepares her signature move, calling out the name of her devastating earth-shaking technique. Her fist descends like a falling mountain, slamming into the ground with absolute unstoppable force. Rice is caught in the blast, his body reeling as he questions how this is possible. He stares at her in disbelief, unable to reconcile her small frame with such immense strength. Desperate to survive, he frantically searches for any weak point in her overwhelming, crushing defense. He vows to win, but the girl looms over him, her hand already closing the trap. She shouts a bizarre command, her eyes locked onto the villain as she executes her plan. With a swift motion, she unleashes a shockwave that ripples through the air with intense pressure. The battlefield trembles as she creates a localized vortex, trapping the villain within her reach. Rice is snatched up, held helplessly in her grip as he struggles to break free. She exhales in relief, confirming that the target has been successfully subdued by her power. The senior detective watches from the sidelines, his expression unreadable as he observes the scene. He reflects on his own failures, feeling deep shame for his previous cruel and manipulative behavior. Questioning his own character, he realizes he has become the very thing he once despised. He admits that he cannot compare to the rookie, humbled by her display of true skill. The girl calls out to him, holding the defeated villain as the reality of victory settles. The rookie detective asks the defeated villain to help her tie some ropes. She laughs off the situation while the others watch the strange scene unfold. Night falls over the battlefield as the crescent moon hangs high in the sky. Haru and his allies stand over the unconscious villain, questioning why he remains still. Haru kicks him, demanding he wake up and fulfill his promise to talk. A mysterious observer watches from the shadows, confirming she did not kill him. She assesses the 4 targets, realizing a direct confrontation is far too dangerous now. She formulates a plan to strike the fastest man and escape with her master. Counting down, she prepares to execute her move with a firm, steady grip. Suddenly, the scene shifts as the group realizes their target has been snatched away. The senior detective expresses shock, noting that these supposed rookies are incredibly skilled. He mocks the situation, impressed that such young detectives took down a 3-star target. Haru and the rookie react in disbelief, learning the true rank of their opponent. The senior detective identifies the target as an elite, questioning where the woman went. They realize she has escaped in the chaos, leaving them empty-handed and frustrated. The senior detective orders them to bring in the captive while he departs. A glowing seed appears in his palm, pulsing with a strange magical energy. He holds the seed aloft, channeling his power to track the missing woman. He confidently declares that she did not get far, sensing her nearby location. Massive dark vines erupt from the ground, surging upward with terrifying, unstoppable speed. The woman is caught in their crushing grip, unable to escape. The senior detective orders her capture, callously walking away as the trap closes. The mission is officially marked as completed, leaving the group stunned by the power. 3 days pass and the scene shifts to the imposing headquarters building. Haru stares ahead with a tense expression, clearly troubled by the recent dangerous events. He lingers near the broadcast room, desperate to overhear the classified information inside. The rookie detective finds him lurking again, clearly frustrated by his persistent intrusive behavior. She physically drags him away, warning him that his presence makes the senior detectives uncomfortable. Haru demands to know the truth about the Eye of Stars, realizing he is completely uninformed. The rookie reluctantly explains that the information is strictly classified for those below 3rd-year status. They discuss the Eye of Stars, a dangerous criminal organization comprised entirely of powerful limit breakers. This organization is revealed to be a massive threat, having already wiped out 7 entire cities. Haru remains fixated on his own agenda, ignoring the scale of the threat to pursue answers. His expression darkens as he fixates on a single specific name from his past. He whispers the name Eska, his eyes burning with a sudden intense and focused rage. The rookie watches him, startled by the sudden shift in his demeanor and dark intent. Haru reveals that Eska is a traitor who abandoned the private detectives for the enemy. He declares his singular mission is to reclaim what the traitor stole from him. 2 cups of coffee sit on a table, marking the setting of a tense interrogation. The captive villain remains bound to his chair, still refusing to speak after 3 days. The senior detective sips his coffee, taunting the silent captive with the comfort of HQ. He urges the villain to cooperate, noting that the delicious aroma is wasted on him. The villain laughs, ignoring the coffee to demand another fight with the rookie detective instead. The senior detective sighs, disappointed that his attempt to break the prisoner has failed again. Haru and the rookie interrupt, baffled by the senior detective's casual focus on coffee during interrogation. The rookie asks for a description of Eska, wanting to be prepared for a future encounter. The senior detective agrees to help, but a sudden knocking at the door interrupts them. He describes the traitor's silver hair, yellow eyes, and the distinct scar on his mouth. The door swings open to reveal the man himself, greeting the senior detective with mockery. The senior detective freezes in absolute terror, stunned by the sudden appearance of the intruder. The silver-haired intruder mocks Haru, asking if he is still as noisy as ever. He stands casually in the room, claiming he misses his old friend from the past. This is Eska, the dangerous traitor from the Eye of Stars, appearing with a smirk. Haru stares at his own crude sketch of the traitor, realizing the man is actually here. His allies mock his terrible drawing skills, while confusion spreads about the sudden uninvited visitor. They sense something is wrong, realizing someone has broken into the secure broadcast room. Glass shatters as the senior detective is violently thrown out by an unseen force. Haru and his team watch in horror as their senior is tossed aside like trash. He crashes into the wall, leaving the group stunned by the sheer power of the intruder. Haru rushes forward, demanding to know what is happening as the room descends into chaos. His eyes narrow with intense focus, recognizing the threat standing before him in the wreckage. Rage burns within Haru as he locks eyes with the man he has hunted for years. Eska stands amidst the broken glass, greeting them with a chilling and mocking smile. The group realizes this is the traitor who abandoned the detectives for the enemy organization. Haru questions how he could possibly be standing here right inside their own headquarters. He declares that he will kill the traitor, relieved that he does not have to hunt. Eska laughs off the threat, feigning happiness, while Haru calls him a lying, treacherous bastard. Haru screams about the ring that was stolen, demanding the return of his precious item. His rookie ally is shocked, realizing the senior detective was only after an expensive ring. Eska holds up the stolen ring, taunting Haru by asking if it originally belonged to him. The sight of the stolen jewelry fuels Haru's anger, confirming the traitor still has it. Haru lunges forward with flaming intent, desperate to reclaim what was taken from him. Eska watches the attack with a cold, calculating gaze, unfazed by the sudden aggressive strike. With blinding speed, Eska delivers a brutal kick, sending Haru flying across the room. Haru collapses in pain, gasping for air as the traitor proves his overwhelming superior strength. Eska coldly refuses to return the stolen ring, mocking Haru with a sinister, jagged grin. He channels a surge of blue flames, preparing to unleash his overwhelming power upon Haru. Haru is sent flying through the air, completely overpowered by the traitor's sudden explosive strike. He crashes violently into the exterior wall of the headquarters, leaving a massive smoking crater. Haru gasps in agony, stunned by the intense heat and raw strength of the enemy's attack. Eska stands amidst the wreckage, taunting his former friend while preparing to finish the job. He points a finger, charging a lethal blast of blue fire directly at his fallen target. The blast tears through the building, drawing the attention of every detective in the vicinity. Detectives in the courtyard scramble, confused by the sudden violent commotion erupting from within. One detective stares in shock, realizing that Haru is the one caught in the crossfire. A massive shockwave rocks the headquarters, signaling the severity of the ongoing brutal assault. Haru struggles to rise from the debris, his body aching as he curses the traitor. His allies rush over, demanding to know why he is breaking rules by fighting inside. Haru screams that Eska has infiltrated the headquarters, urging them to stop wasting precious time. The detectives recoil in disbelief, struggling to process the news that the traitor is inside. Haru charges back toward the chaos, desperate to confront his nemesis despite his severe injuries. Alarms blare throughout the facility, officially declaring an intruder alert for the entire headquarters. The system identifies Eska, ordering all detectives to immediately begin suppression operations against the threat. Eska observes the panic from above, noting that no high-level monsters are currently present here. He turns to his accomplice, a senior detective, who expresses relief that they remain undetected. The traitor urges his partner to hurry, concerned that reinforcements will arrive at any moment. They look down at the unconscious victims in the broadcast room, indifferent to their survival. Eska praises the senior detective's capability, noting how useful he has been to their cause. The senior detective, revealed as Bake of the Eye of Stars, smirks while adjusting his glasses. Haru arrives to confront them, his eyes burning with the singular lethal intent to kill Eska. Eska mocks the bound prisoner, questioning if he expects a rescue from the organization. He reveals his true mission is to retrieve the prisoner Rice for his boss. The captive laughs bitterly, taunting Eska for his past betrayal and current cold-hearted nature. Eska ignores the insult, calmly preparing a syringe filled with a mysterious glowing green substance. He callously injects the sedative into Rice, claiming he will put the prisoner's life to use. Rice struggles against the restraints, cursing Eska as the drug begins to take effect quickly. The prisoner screams in rage, regretting that he did not kill the traitor long ago. Eska and his accomplice watch as the victims fall unconscious, their bodies slumped and helpless. Navy arrives in a panic, demanding to know what has happened to his captured master. Eska looms over the unconscious girl, coldly stating that he only requires her life now. With a swift motion, he grabs the girl, his grip tight and devoid of mercy. The traitorous duo secures their targets, leaving the room in a state of total devastation. Eska prepares to depart, mocking the situation while his partner confirms the girl is ready. They pause, suddenly sensing that someone is rapidly approaching their location from down the hall. Eska notes that Haru is closing in, casually asking his partner if he wants combat. He decides it is too much trouble, laughing off the chance for a violent confrontation. Eska bids his partner farewell, carrying the unconscious girl away as he makes his escape. He leaps from the building with his captive, vanishing into the open air outside headquarters. Alarms blare throughout the facility, alerting all detectives to the intruder's identity and current position. Eska lands in the courtyard, amused by the chaos he has caused within the base. He remains unfazed by the surrounding detectives, holding the girl as they close in tightly. High above, a young lady from the Eye of Stars watches, mocking them to sing. She stands calmly on the roof, a mysterious observer waiting for the final act to unfold. Haru bursts into the room, his face twisted in fury as he screams for the traitor. He stares at the empty space, realizing with horror that his target has already escaped. Confusion strikes Haru as a strange melodic sound echoes through the entire headquarters building. He and his ally find the hallway littered with unconscious detectives, all fallen instantly. Haru struggles to comprehend how Eska could possibly possess such overwhelming wide-range power. A haunting lullaby begins to resonate, signaling the arrival of a new mysterious threat. The music intensifies, acting as a supernatural sedative that drops everyone in the vicinity. High above, the rooftop observer broadcasts a chilling order to suppress the traitor Eska. Sonic waves ripple through the air, forcing Eska to cover his ears tightly. Chaos unfolds in the courtyard as detectives collapse, unable to resist the powerful rhythmic spell. Eska remains calm, shielding his senses, while the lullaby continues to dominate the entire area. The rooftop observer continues her song, her voice acting as a weapon against the facility. Inside the building, the effect is absolute, leaving no one awake to challenge the intruders. Even in the restrooms, the detectives are caught off guard and rendered completely helpless. The courtyard becomes a graveyard of fallen allies, all silenced by the mysterious musical assault. Eska watches the carnage with a smirk, standing tall while the rest of the base succumbs. He acknowledges the rooftop observer, thanking her for the assist and requesting a future performance. She bids him farewell, confirming that the path is now clear for his final escape. The sky remains clear as the traitor prepares to walk out of the headquarters grounds. Eska drags his captive, the red-haired prisoner, through the silent, sleeping halls of the base. He strolls past the unconscious bodies of his former colleagues, completely indifferent to their state. The entire organization has been neutralized, leaving the traitor free to walk away unchecked. Suddenly, a pair of footsteps breaks the silence, catching the traitor by complete surprise. Haru and his ally stand firm, gasping for air, but refusing to succumb to sleep. Haru roars in defiance, demanding the return of his stolen ring despite his own injuries. Having pierced his own palm to stay awake, Haru refuses to let the traitor escape. Despite his severe wound, Haru prepares for a final desperate stand against his former friend. The traitor stands over his captive, while Haru and his wounded ally watch in helpless rage. Haru screams at his injured companion to get up, but the traitor only offers a cold stare. Mocking Haru's desperate attempt to stay awake through pain, the traitor calls him as dumb as ever. He laughs off the confrontation, claiming that falling asleep would have been the much smarter choice. Suddenly, the traitor lunges forward with a hand wreathed in intense, glowing blue flames of power. Haru is caught completely off guard by the sudden explosive speed of the traitor's surprise attack. The traitor activates his ability, igniting the air with a searing, destructive blue energy blast. A massive shockwave erupts as the flames collide, forcing Haru to recoil from the overwhelming heat. Engulfed in the blinding blue light, Haru can only gasp in shock at the intense temperature. He realizes with growing dread that the traitor's flames are far hotter than his own power. The traitor sneers, telling Haru that his current strength is far too weak to change anything. With a blur of motion, the traitor closes the distance, his blue aura crackling with lethal intent. He delivers a devastating kick, channeling raw electrical energy into a strike that shatters the ground. Haru struggles to keep his footing, frustrated by the traitor's arrogance and his own fading stamina. The traitor stands ready, his body surrounded by a swirling vortex of wind and crackling energy. A sinister smirk plays on the traitor's lips as he prepares to finish the weakened detective. He recognizes the senior detective Dyke, mocking his specialty and his current desperate limit break state. The traitor strikes with blinding speed, overwhelming Dyke with a relentless barrage of electric-infused combat moves. He explains his technique, revealing that his high-speed movement is powered by constant electrical discharge. Dyke is caught in a lethal grip, unable to counter the traitor's superior speed and strength. With a brutal motion, the traitor lifts Dyke, slamming him into the ground with crushing force. Dyke cries out in agony as the traitor's strike lands with devastating impact on his body. The traitor cruelly targets the open wound Haru previously inflicted, twisting the knife in his side. He prepares a final burning strike, his hand glowing with the same intense destructive blue flame. Calling out the name Shua, the traitor unleashes a final crushing blow to end the fight. Haru gasps for air, his body trembling as he struggles to remain conscious after the assault. Asuka stands over the fallen detective, his cold demeanor showing no remorse for his former ally. Taunting Haru, the traitor questions why he failed to guard his most obvious and vulnerable weak spot. Haru ignores the insults, lunging forward with a desperate burst of flame to catch Asuka off guard. His eyes narrow with intense focus as he spots a fleeting opening in the traitor's defense. Asuka reacts with impossible speed, vanishing from sight before the flames can even make contact with him. Appearing instantly behind Haru, Asuka mocks his decision to keep fighting instead of staying down. With a cruel smirk, the traitor delivers a precise lightning-fast strike directly into Haru's side. He grips his own jacket, radiating a dangerous aura as he prepares to finish the job. Haru screams in frustration, his fiery fist still burning as he tries to land a desperate blow. Asuka effortlessly deflects the attack, his movements fluid and far superior to anything Haru can manage. Haru wonders in agony how Asuka's speed could possibly surpass his own despite sharing the same power. Pinning him to the cracked pavement, Asuka coldly tells him to stay put for the time being. He activates his ring, its blue flames igniting with terrifying, focused intensity. He slams his hand down, unleashing a massive surge of energy that completely engulfs the area. The blue flames roar, creating a searing vortex that traps Haru within their destructive burning reach. Haru cries out in sheer agony as the overwhelming heat consumes his senses. Asuka watches calmly as he collapses, his body battered and broken by the relentless, powerful assault. A smug, satisfied expression rests on the traitor's face as he surveys his handiwork in the courtyard. He drags his captive by the bindings, indifferent to the suffering he has caused this day. Walking away from the scene, he leaves Haru behind in the dust, defeated and unable to move. Haru struggles to process the reality of the situation, his mind reeling from the sudden, brutal defeat. He questions how the rookie he once knew could have possibly become this overwhelmingly powerful and dangerous. Pushing his hand against the cold ground, he forces himself to find the strength to rise. Despite the pain, he refuses to yield, calling out to the traitor that he is not finished. Asuka stares down at him, his expression cold and detached as the confrontation continues. Haru stands his ground, demanding the return of his stolen ring from the traitor. His eyes burn with intense, desperate resolve, refusing to back down despite his injuries. The ring remains the sole focus of his mission, a precious item he must recover. He launches himself toward Asuka, fueled by a singular burning desire to reclaim his property. Flames flicker at his jaw, his teeth grit in a display of pure, unyielding defiance. Asuka remains unmoved, his face a mask of indifference as he watches the detective approach. A flashback reveals the two men 3 years ago, sharing a casual moment together. Haru questions the origin of the ring, admitting he did not purchase it himself. Asuka teases him about his rough methods, while Haru explains how he acquired the item. The younger Asuka smiles, offering his support to Haru if anyone ever bothers him again. Haru confesses that his memories are fragmented, leaving the ring's true origin a total mystery. Asuka jokingly offers to buy the ring, but Haru flatly refuses to ever part with it. He treasures the ring, believing it belongs to the person who once saved his life. He vows to find that mysterious savior one day to express his deepest heartfelt gratitude. Back in the present, the tension spikes as he closes the distance for a strike. Haru lunges with a flaming fist, declaring he is ready to do absolutely anything. Asuka's face remains obscured in shadow, his calm demeanor contrasting with the heat of battle. Haru's eyes narrow, his focus sharpening as he prepares to land his desperate final attack. Asuka stands firm, dragging his captive, while questioning why Haru keeps throwing his life away. The traitor claims he is trying not to kill him, mocking his suicidal combat style. Haru freezes in confusion, stunned by the traitor's unexpected and chilling words of false mercy. His eyes widen in shock, the weight of the situation hitting him with full force. Asuka looms over him with a dark, menacing aura, asking if he truly wants death. A flash of light erupts from the traitor's eyes, leaving Haru completely caught off guard.